Hey, good morning and welcome to our pre-service show. I'm Lisa, this is Kelsey. And before we get started, we just want to take a moment to remember and to honor the fact that this weekend we were doing Juneteenth. We were celebrating, and really we were thinking about what this actually means. And I think this is something where we can blaze past it and not remember the importance of why we stop and why we think about this. Juneteenth is the end of slavery in our country, and we believe that everyone is created with infinite dignity, value, and worth in the image of God. And so we have a resource we would love for you to listen to. It's a conversation that we had this past year as a church. You can find out more about that at ehills.org/weekend, but please don't miss this opportunity to learn and to grow.
Absolutely. We also want to have a little bit of fun together today. And so normally at the beginning of our pre-service show, we ask a question. So we have a question that we want you to answer in the chat because this is something I personally suffer around. So here you go. Are you ready? What's your best barbecue tip?
I'm still curious why this was our question. I mean, obviously, I'm a master barbecuer.
You look
right?
like a masterful barbecuer.
For sure.
Yeah.
I actually learned this tip from someone else at the 9 o'clock service, but my tip for us today is find someone who has a smoker and is really, really good at it, and just show up at their house whenever the smell just kind of wafts towards yours. That's my tip.
That feels fair.
Yep.
That feels fair. So I'm not a barbecuer, don't own a barbecue, have barbecued twice, and both times I barbecued romaine lettuce. You just put a little oil and salt and pepper, and you just for a second, and it turns into a fantastic Caesar salad.
Okay.
Clearly, we need your help, so drop some answers in the chat.
That's amazing. Yes, you can chat with us on whatever platform you're watching from. If you're with us in the room and you're like, hey, where do I chat? You can go to our app. There's a chat in there as well. And all the things that we talk about, minus our barbecue tips, are going to show up here at ehills.org/weekend. Anything we talk about tonight or today, you'll be able to find right there.
We already have answers. One, it says, my pro tip is if you are trying to use a charcoal grill, have gas grill ready to go as a backup.
It's amazing.
They also said, thank you, Heather, grilled romaine is delicious.
Oh.
I'm not alone. There are multiple of us.
Now, does it like wilt the lettuce?
No, just real fast, real fast. You just get char lines on.
Okay. All right. Amanda says, get Jason to do it. That feels right.
That must be spouse right there.
It is.
I like that. Allie also says, don't touch the fire.
Yes. Yes, that would be bad, for sure.
So far, our tips are great.
I do know someone who got the flames a little too high and then didn't have eyebrows for a while. So, yeah, don't touch the fire.
Yikes. That seems like a bad idea.
Well, hey, if you've got better barbecue tips for us, obviously we are in desperate need, so you can drop those in the chat from wherever you are watching from.
We also want to just thank you for last week. Last week we had 25 people who said, I'm all in with Jesus and I want to celebrate by getting baptized with my community, with my church family. And so thank you to those 25 of you who allowed us to celebrate with you, but also thanks to all of you who have built support systems for these people. What a great way to celebrate. This week we're going to continue in our celebration, but today we're celebrating dads and dudes. So dads and dudes online and in the room, we're happy to see you. We're glad you're here. Thank you for all that you do for us.
All right, so at the top of the show, we asked, what are your best barbecue tips? Don says low and slow. I feel like he might have talked to my husband because I always get in trouble for neither of those, for both of them. And then Tim says smoking pork, always bring the internal temp to 205 degrees. It will get stuck at 180 for a while. Give it time. I usually don't have time to give, so then it just goes in the microwave until it's done. I don't think that's right.
I think that's the problem is we want our results fast.
Yes.
In fact, someone on Facebook, hold on, let's go find it. Blake says that his ribs are currently in the smoker while he's at church.
Oh.
So I know which house you're going to.
Right? I'll just waft the smell until I find it. It'll be amazing. Party M, this is my kind of guy right here. Make sure you have propane in your tank. This is usually where I get stuck. Leads to half-cooked chicken, which is why the microwave comes into play. I don't know how to check the propane in the tank, so it's like a vicious cycle, you know?
Someone else said you can grill some artichoke hearts. and some, hold on, where to go? Kale.
Oh.
I didn't know I could barbecue or grill all of my vegetables.
I feel like if you could do lettuce, you could do kale.
That's true.
Yeah.
That sounds delicious. We're having a grilled salad for lunch today, I think. I don't have a grill, so I'm going to go find your grill.
There you go.
Not yours, because you'll probably be out of propane.
Indeed. Okay, so this past week, we actually were able to have a whole bunch of ladies join us right here in the church, in our youth auditorium, filled the room. It was so good to have so many ladies together for our very first women's collective, something that we're gonna be doing every single month. But I just wanna thank you right now. If you are on that team that gives, it's because of your generosity that we're able to provide opportunities like that for women to connect. So thank you so much. If you want to know how to get on that team, you can go to ehills.org/weekend.
Absolutely. I forgot to mention, hey, if you forgot a Father's Day gift, we are selling shirts for our dudes out in the lobby, $10. You can go grab one. Or guys, if you just want a really cool one, you can grab one as well. It's pretty awesome.
Good.
We have some models that will reveal them to us later. It'll be pretty good.
Great.
Also, if you're new in the room, welcome. We're so glad that you are here with us. If you can go ahead and text new to the number you see on the screen, that way we can get to know you and we can be people, not just a building, but a group of humans who connect with one another. If you're in the room, you can actually stop by the guest house on your way out and we can do a face-to-face meeting. It's pretty exciting.
Well, hey, because it's Father's Day weekend, we want to mix things up, do things a little bit differently. We've got a couple treats in store for you. One of them is we don't have one speaker for our message today. We actually have two. Both Kendall and Phil are going to be up here in just a little bit. And they've got a question that they want you to drop into the chat. It is, what's your favorite dad joke?
So my dad's jokes are all 13-minute diatribes. So I'm not going to give you those because we don't have that kind of time. Instead, I found one. Are you ready for this? Also, I'm sorry. I don't think I could do it. Here we go. How did Harry Potter get down the hill? Walking, J.K. Rowling. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, what's yours?
Good. Okay. All right. Well, I wasn't sure what to do, but I'm going to go back to my old reliable. All right. All right. Here it is. Kelsey, have you seen the movie Constipated?
I have not.
That's okay. It hasn't come out yet. It's too good. It's,
I've heard it 4 times and it's still the best joke I've ever heard. Hey guys, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna start a little differently this morning, and so we want to invite you to stay seated and get ready. We're gonna do a little bit of rock and roll, go back a couple decades. If you know the song, and I'm guessing quite a few of us do, feel free to sing out to your heart's content. But we're just so grateful that you're here. We'll get started in just a moment.
Dads, that one was for you. Hey, welcome to Eastern Hills. We're glad you guys are here with us this morning. Do you guys stand with us? We're going to start off by singing a couple songs. Here we go. Just one word, you calm the storm that surrounds me. Just one word, the darkness has to retreat. Just one touch, I feel the presence of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe it. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, just one word, you heal what's broken inside me. Yeah, just one word, and you revive every dream. Just one touch, I feel the power of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe it. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall He can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Let's sing, I will believe. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. Let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise. celebrating Father's Day today, and I'm a dad, so I appreciate it. I love it. And as I was thinking about it too, Father's Day also just reminds me of what a privilege it is, and what sometimes feels like a heavy load to carry, to be trusted with these kids. And I look at them and I think, man, God, why would you trust me to like raise these little people to turn into good humans? And sometimes it just feels like a lot. And I know that for a lot of people, today's also, it's a hard day. Maybe you lost someone, or maybe it's just the word father kind of brings up some bad memories. And so I love this next song that we get to sing, because wherever you're at, wherever this day finds you, whether it's feeling like I'm not enough and I can't do it on my own, or whether it's sadness or hurt, we have a Father in heaven who is perfect and who does love us, and we can bring anything to him. So this song talks about running to him again and again and again, over and over. He's always there. Whenever we run to him, he's there with open arms, accepting us. So I just hope that wherever you're at this morning, you would just receive this and run to your Father.
Grace.
Hey, we want to say welcome. Thanks so much for being here with us today. You guys can take your seats.
It is so good to know that no matter what today brings, we have a loving Father who never gives up on us and is always with us. Thank you guys so much for joining with us. Thank you so much for singing. We're glad that you are here. We want to just reach out to a couple groups of people. First of all, if you're new, welcome. I know that with things kind of ramping up again, it's so good to see some faces. Some of you for the first time. We are glad you're here. If you would go ahead and text new to the number on the screen, or if you're in the building on your way out, stop by the guest house. We'd love to meet you, get to know you, and make some connections beyond what we can do from this position. So grateful that you're here. The other group of people we want to acknowledge is our dads and dudes in the room. We are so grateful for you. So thank you guys for being here. In fact, one of you is going to be just a little extra lucky today. Under the seat, somewhere in this room, there is a box of golf balls. So closest dude to this box of golf balls is going to win. So go ahead, look under your seats, look under your seats. Anybody find said box of golf balls? Oh, we have a winner. Excellent. All right, either now or at the end of service, if you go to the booth where we're selling our men's t-shirts, we have a prize for you, including $50 to Topgolf. So whether you golf or just really like to eat food, it is a great trip. So make sure you stop by and grab that today. Congratulations. And while we couldn't get every dude in the room a gift, we do have a special present for you. This weekend, we are kicking off signups for our men's retreat happening in October. You're gonna have a chance to head up to the mountains, enjoy some time away, play some games, hang out, get a community that outlives what you are experiencing now, and spend time with our Father in heaven. So we are just so grateful for you. If you want to sign up for that, you can do that today. You can sign up online, ehills.org/weekend, or you can sign up in the lobby. This also is a great way to say to the guy in your life, hey, I care about you. I care about where you're at, and help send them as well. So grateful to be able to do that. And thank you. Thank you to all of you who are a part of the team that gives week in and week out. It is because of your generosity that we can send the guys away. And this last week, our gals gathered for the first time in a long time. So thankful for your generosity, saying to the adults in our world, you matter, you are loved, and we value your life. So thank you guys for being a part of that. If you want to give, you can go to ehills.org/weekend. And today is Father's Day. So we just want to take a special moment and appreciate some of the dads in our life. Will you watch this video with us?
Hey dads, we've watched you in the rough seasons, walking your family through whatever came knocking at your front door. Sometimes they're just ordinary problems, but you aren't any ordinary dad. You've led us with a steady calm. You gave all the time you had, and even the time you didn't. Dads, you stepped up, staying up late to finish work, being the helping hand everyone needed on days that sometimes felt endless. You wrestled with online school, tackled homework you sometimes didn't even understand. You made sure we stayed connected to those we love. Dads, you stepped up and listened when we couldn't handle the circumstances of life, and found extra patience somewhere in your back pocket, even when things boiled over. You led us through trying to understand what was happening in the world. Dads, you stepped up and brought fun and laughter whenever you could. But you also showed us that it's okay to feel deep disappointment and loss. Dad, you faced every day with courage, even in the face of uncertainty, and spent more than one sleepless night without any good answers or assurances. But you always made sure we knew this one thing, that we are loved. Thank you, Dad, for stepping up.
Well, hey everybody, happy Father's Day. So glad that you are here joining us. Kendall and I are team teaching. I've never team taught before, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
Nice shirt, dude.
Thank you. You got the same one, I noticed.
Yeah, lobby.
Yep.
Nice, very nice. Well, if you guys are interested in one of these shirts, we have a limited number of them available in the lobby. We're going to be talking about this idea that for lots of us, we want faithfulness and fruitfulness in our life to come through comfort, to come through ease, but it always gets forged through fire. It always comes through adversity. And I think we've learned that in some really unique ways that we're going to talk about over the course of this year in the next few minutes together. So before we get started though, if you've never been here or you never kind of heard a message at Eastern Hills, we start by praying. And so we're going to do that here in just a sec.
Are we not doing this?
So Kendall's making fun of me because normally I kneel when I pray, but we're pretty close to the ground. So,
okay. Good to know.
I guess
first time for everything, I guess.
Yeah. Now I just know how this is going to go. Would you pray with me? God, thank you so much. Thank you that we get to celebrate the guys in our life, and whether this is an amazing day with tons of fun or a really hard day for a bunch of different reasons, God, I ask that you would help us to see how you can do unbelievable work in our life and through our life, even in the midst of adversity. It's in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, well, we're gonna start off. We asked you to enter into the chat some dad jokes in the pre-service show. So looking at your best dad jokes, we got a few of them here. Avi says, why are dogs so bad at dancing? Because they have 2 left feet.
But they also have 2 right feet.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we'll see. Okay, we'll do better. Pete,
that was rough.
Did you say that was rough?
Oh,
that was good. That was good.
That was unintentional.
How do
wow.
ninjas say water? You want to say the answer?
Wata, I think is what they're looking for
I think
there.
That's what that is. Yep. Text: 5/4 of people admit they are bad at fractions. That's a good one. That's
really good.
Yeah, we got some other good ones coming in. You got any fun ones?
Yeah, on Facebook, Graham England, who is the king.
There were some people that
jokes.
when we did this, we were like, we're excited to see what they have.
Yeah.
Graham was one of them.
I recently started a dating app for chickens. It's not my normal job, just trying to make hens meet. That's good.
We've been talking about it. There's like this, you can't have a dad joke be too funny. It has to have like a little bit of groan to it, right? That's sort of a thing, right? Let's see here. In the church online, there was a good one. What is brown and sticky? A stick? You heard it.
There's a delay.
Yep. What do you get when you cross a rhetorical question with a joke? Think about it. It's a thinker.
That one's gonna take a minute.
Yep.
People will be figuring that out on the way home today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Any others you want to share?
Did you hear about the antennas that got married? The ceremony was boring, but the reception was amazing. That's good.
That's good. Gigi, put that math one up for me. Here's one. Dear math, grow up and solve your own problems. Can we agree on that? Or here's one of my favorites. When 2 vegans get in an argument, is it still called a beef?
I don't know.
I have no idea. So that's good.
Well, one time I was visiting a monastery, and as I was walking by the kitchen, I saw a guy in there cooking some potatoes, and I thought it'd be funny, so I said, "Are you the friar?" And he said, "No, I'm the chipmunk."
There
we go. Yeah.
You'll get it.
It'll sink in.
Just keep thinking about it.
Hey, those are some fun things. If you're a dad, I know you love to tell your kids those jokes and watch them be embarrassed wherever you're around. But we're celebrating you today. And Phil, you and I, we have some similarities in our being dads. We both have 4 kids. We both have new puppies recently. You've pointed out that yours was not your idea, and mine was my idea. So,
like I protested mine.
Yeah, and I kind of did mine without my wife's permission. So, I like puppies and babies. I just don't like dogs and kids. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a problem.
That is a problem, dude.
But kind of beyond that, we have kind of different dads that we grew up with. And so for me, my dad was a great dad and still a huge part of my life. And I have 3 siblings. I'm sure we all had kind of a different experience with my dad, but he was just a loving father and serving our family and my mom, and just had a great relationship growing up with my dad. One of the things I've kind of shared is a way that he showed how much he loved us and how he served our family. My dad made my lunch until I got married, if you can believe that.
Which Kendall did not get married at 12. Like,
No.
if you're like, did you get married really young? No, like he made your lunch for a long time.
Yeah. So like I'd come home from college and I worked a landscaping job, had to be at work at 6 a.m. My dad would wake up at 5:30 and make my lunch. That's what he did.
It's not
yeah,
cute.
It's cool.
And also, like, just make it the night before. Anyway, yeah.
You like getting up early, I guess.
Yeah, and I love hearing stories like that. Like, I love hearing stories of guys that have amazing relationships with their dads, because honestly, for me, it kind of gives me hope. If you know a little bit about my story, I grew up in a home with abuse and trauma. And my dad passed away a couple years ago, and thankfully, by God's grace, in the last few years, our relationship got a lot better. But growing up was really hard, and so thinking about fathering and thinking about Father's Day could be really challenging. And I think every single one of us that are either a dad or thinking that we're gonna be one down the road, we get an opportunity. We're either continuing on a legacy or we're starting a new one. And I think my hope when I see amazing, incredible stories of faithfulness in the lives of dads and their kids is that my kids would have a different story to tell about our relationship than I had from the one I was growing up with.
So good, so good. So we recognize that in this room, there's probably a lot of you that had a great relationship with your father, some that you didn't have a great relationship with your father. Some of you maybe just kind of, it was there, you know. But today, we don't want to beat up dads. We want to celebrate dads, and we want to just kind of spend some time honoring fathers. And to be honest, the last 18 months, even though I think now it kind of seems like we're coming out of a pandemic and all that kind of stuff and things are getting better, the last 18 months were difficult for everybody. I think especially difficult for dads. And so I just have a question that I'd love for you to answer in the chat or wherever you're watching, but like, where did you go to be alone this past year? Like, my house has never felt smaller. I have 4 kids. They are like large human beings. They were there all the time. Like, and I mean, like, where did you go to get away is my question.
And you wanted a puppy on top of that.
And then, yeah, let's throw a puppy in the mix too. So, but like I said, we watched, and I watched on social media and saw different people's experience here's one that I thought was amazing, and I actually took this up myself. People watched the Marvel movies in order, all 24 movies, chronological order with their kids. So I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So my family did this. I think it took us 28 nights. We missed a night here and there, but we kind of charged hard in like April, May of 2020.
Some of those movies are so bad, dude.
They are. But if you're watching them chronologically, you got to watch all of them.
You got to swallow it.
You just go through it. Some of you had date nights at home with your spouse, and if date nights were an important thing for you during COVID, they were still an important thing, and so you made that work. Put your kids to bed early, and got food and a movie together. Some of you got in the best shape of your life. I've seen you posting on Facebook. Some of us not so much, but maybe your dog did, like me. My old dog, I think that dog was like, why are we walking so much? You know, it was the only thing we could go out and do.
You're like, because I want you gone so I can get a puppy. That's what you're really
right. Yes. Still have them both. It's all good. Some of you lost your office. We shared jokes about our new coworkers that we had as you were sitting at the dining room table, which was now your office. You might have had 1, 2, 3 kids also sharing the dining room table that was their classroom. Some of you lost your job during COVID and lost financial stability during COVID. And I can't imagine what it's like to try and interview for a job, to try and accept a job, even start working remotely. Maybe some of you never even met your boss before you started working together in person. And others of you didn't find a job and you ended up on hold at phone lines that thousands of people were calling for unemployment and trying to do anything to keep your family financially stable. And I just want to applaud dads for the work in all of that. It was big, it's still big, and you guys have done an incredible job. But Phil, specifically, where did you go to be alone during COVID?
Yeah, so both Kendall and I have spin bikes at our houses, and so I would go to my spin bike, which we have like a little baby gate that blocks that room off, and so our 2-year-old and now our puppy, which just a reminder, not my idea, both of them would just be like right at the baby gate, kind of just staring at me, like wanting to be in, messing with me, but they couldn't, and I just pretended they weren't there. That was one way. I also got like pretty into outdoor running in the last year, and so literally, if you're saying like, Phil, how did you get away? I literally ran away from my family in the last.
That's good.
How about you?
That's good. You ran away from your family. For me, I think there was. In our basement, we have like kind of like 6 theater seats where we watch the Marvel movies, you know? And in the back corner one, I spent a lot of time there because it seemed like no one would go down to the basement. Most of the time I was crying down there because, you know, like spring 2020 online schooling was not good for our family. Like, so rather than like hurt somebody or just leave, I would just go down into the basement and cry. I gave my whole family COVID in April, so there's a lot of guilt there. I cried about that in the basement.
Yeah.
Everyone's laughing at me, but
You're
trying to be vulnerable here.
Fine. You gotta share. You gotta share in your basement. You can cry about it later, dude.
I'll be there later today.
Yeah. Yeah, some of you guys had some answers online too. Tim said, my long drive back and forth to work. That's a unique situation in the last year that you've gotten to drive to work a bunch. Vern said, I was fortunate enough to do some commercial pilot time building, so I was blessed to fly over all of Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, and South Dakota. So my answer is I ran away from my family, and you thought, that I'm judging you a little. Vern flew away from his family.
Yeah, just flew away.
Yeah, how about you?
Caitlin said Wyoming, just went to Wyoming.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's where she lives.
Sure. Natalie said, I went to the master throne room. Is that a euphemism for the bathroom?
I think so, yeah.
To be alone, 3 doors between me and the rest of the house.
That's good. That's a good call.
Especially if the bathroom locks from the inside. Like, you just got to find time to be alone.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
But I think at the end of something like this, it's easy for us to feel like, well, that was really hard, but we did it, and now we're going to get back to normal, right? All the questions this year have been, when do we get to go back to normal? But I think one of the challenges with that question is normal wasn't working before any of this happened. And so the idea that we're gonna go back to a normal that never existed, I think we need to be reminded today that, again, faithfulness is always forged in fire. And while we would prefer it to come through comfort, while we would prefer it to be easier, there is something that I think is so healthy and beneficial when we realize how God shows up in the difficult times of our life. And so for a few minutes, I'd love to spend some time in a book in the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament of your Bible, called Daniel. And in this book, God shows his faithfulness to his people while they find themselves in Babylonian exile. And Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they have this personal faith that brought risks in a culture that looked nothing like the faith that they were called to live out. Doesn't feel like that's too much of a stretch from where we live today, right? God's people are in Babylonian captivity, and the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, was so proud, so egotistical, so disconnected from their God that multiple times he created laws that targeted God's people, Israel. And one of those is a law we're going to talk about today. But there's this group of friends led by Daniel who simply didn't conform to the compromises of the culture around them. They ate differently, like our vegetarian friend Kelsey.
Yep.
Right? They ate differently, they lived differently, and they believed differently. It would have been so easy and justifiable for them to compromise, and they simply didn't. So where we're gonna dive into today, Nebuchadnezzar has made a golden image, and he said, he's issued a decree that says, anytime you hear music of any kind, you're like, what's your favorite kind of music? Doesn't matter what genre it was, doesn't matter where you were. If you heard music in Babylon, you were to drop and worship the golden image. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would not do this. They get brought in front of Nebuchadnezzar, who's like, man, I like you guys. I don't want to do this to you. I don't want to put you in a fiery furnace, but that's what I'll do. So he gives them one more opportunity. Again, they don't worship the golden image. And then what happens?
Daniel 3, because the king's order was urgent and the furnace overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they fell bound into the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire. They are not hurt, and the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." That's crazy.
That is crazy, right? And for us, it's easy when we read a story like this or a passage in the Bible to think, this has nothing to do with my life. Hopefully you will never go into a fiery furnace. And just to save you, if you're thinking about this right now, if you're thinking I have a pretty big oven, maybe I'll try this afternoon. You will probably meet Jesus, but not the way you want. So just don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. But what we see over and over again is the extraordinary ways that God shows us up in the lives of people who follow him. He does it through ordinary faith, through being faithful in the challenges and adversity of every single day. And so in this passage, that's what we see from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They tell the king, hey, we believe God can save us. We believe he will. But even if he doesn't, we would never worship that golden image. We will always stay faithful to our God. And we're going to talk about how that shows up in their character long before this challenge came up in front of them. We know that the furnace was so hot that the servants that were bringing Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the furnace, they themselves got burned up and died. And so you can kind of envision Nebuchadnezzar thinking this entire process is probably going to be pretty fast. He's like, I got dinner reservations. I think we're going to make it. And he looks into the fiery furnace and he's like, well, I see Shadrach right there. Oh, there's Meshach. There's Abednego. That none of them look very uncomfortable. And then there's a 4th person in there. And for him, he's not a Jewish man. He doesn't worship the God of Israel. But there's this thing that happens for Nebuchadnezzar, and this is not the only time, where he sees something so real, something so powerful. And in this time, he describes it like this glowing image that exists in the fiery furnace. In theology terms, this is called a Christophany.
What?
You want to say that 5 times fast?
It's called a what?
It's called a Christophany. And what that means is that Jesus, who came 2,000 years ago to offer salvation for the whole world, fully God and fully man, that generations upon generation before that, he would show up in the life of Israel in what's called a pre-incarnate Christ. He would show up, help them, rescue them, save them, and offer kind of a picture of foreshadowing of what he would do for all of humanity when he would come 2,000 years ago. And so that's what Nebuchadnezzar's seeing. He's obviously pretty overwhelmed. All this is happening. They come out completely unscathed. How does he respond?
Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace and he declared, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Christophany, is that what his name was?
Nope, different.
Okay,
we'll talk about it later. Yep.
Servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the fire, and the satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's counselors gathered together, saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair of their heads was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come upon them. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God.
Pretty big swing, huh?
Big change of attitude and belief on Nebuchadnezzar's part.
Well, Nebuchadnezzar constantly finds himself getting tripped up by people, really advisors that he should probably rehire at this point, who get him involved in these kind of traps, these tricks. And so here, again, he realizes that their God has done something that none of the false gods that Babylonians would have worshiped could ever do. And so this unbelievable and inexplicable event that God brings, all of a sudden brings honor to God's name in a way that was so unique in Babylon. It brings unbelievable authority to Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel, that God would use them in the Babylonian Empire in a way that they never would have otherwise. And even the Jewish people, who I'm assuming many of them did bow down to worship this image, now all of a sudden they had protection as followers of this God to not have to do that. And that's what faith that gets forged under fire does. That's what happens. We can endure challenges and continue to face the obstacles that God brings our way. Now, I wanna make sure we all understand, right? Again, this is descriptive, not prescriptive. You're not looking for a fiery furnace this afternoon. This is what happens in their context. For you, it may be something with your family or your neighborhood or your classmates or your boss or that coworker that you go, what does it look like for me to be faithful and kind and show up in a loving way? Because here's the thing, at the end of Daniel 3, we get to the end of this passage and we're like, oh, cool, Nebuchadnezzar figured it out. It just must be happily ever after. But this isn't the end of Daniel, this is the beginning. And over again, you'll see that they have to keep showing up and being faithful. Because oftentimes what God does in your and my life is he uses difficult challenges to forge our faith and our faithfulness to get us ready for what's coming next. And so if you think like, well, COVID's done, 2020's in the rearview mirror, we're good to go, I hope you're right, but there are more challenges coming. And the ones you've just went through, hopefully you feel like, you know what, I've learned some things, my faithfulness is now rooted deeper, and I'm gonna keep going.
As you kind of talk us through those passages, as we talked over the past couple weeks, really kind of coming up with three things that I think for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for us today, can prepare us for those challenges. And maybe you felt like, man, you were really well prepared and kind of went into COVID. I don't know if anyone felt well prepared for that, but just for those challenges, what about the next ones that are coming? What about Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego? I think these three things can really help us to form our faith and forge our faith before the adversity comes. So the first one I want to talk about is personal habits. I got to believe that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not just show up that morning and kind of, oh, we should kind of stand up against the king today and try and end up in the fiery furnace at the end of the day. No, this was a part of their life. This was ongoing. Their relationship with God did not just start and happen that day. So the question I want to ask to everybody is, do you have any personal habits in your life that you feel have helped you work through some of the toughest times in your life? Phil, you got stuff that maybe has helped you work through tough times?
Yeah, and I would just say, like, if you're somebody that maybe doesn't normally chat, if you've had some things over the course of the last year that have been helpful, drop them into a chat. Go to ehills.org/weekend, click on the chat button. I think we need one another for this. Like, we have all had to learn some stuff that I think has been easy to let things over the course of the last year kind of made us drift from those, but it's an opportunity today to kind of reaffirm some of that. I would say for me, for a long time in my life, but especially this year, what I've realized is if I don't get up before my kids, I will not have restful margin time to be able to study, pray, just like get my head together, you know? I mean, now I still have to deal with a dog at that point, but if I wait till my kids are up, if I wait till my day has started, if I wait till my schedule is breathing down my neck, and I think I'll find time for what's most important, I just will never find time. How about for you?
I think for me, it's that same sort of thing. It's having some space. So whether that's in the morning, go down, ride the spin bike for a little while, and just kind of keeping myself healthy, but also keeping myself like engaged with God, and just having some quiet time with him in the mornings, whether that's even the middle of the day during COVID and before that, just taking a walk through my neighborhood or walking the dog, or just anything that can give me some personal margins so that when I show up for my wife, when I show up for my kids and my family, that I show up ready for them, that what I'm giving them comes out of the overflow of my life and is not just kind of the leftovers.
When I think it's so important right now, like those things are so valuable. And I think it's easy to go, I know I need to start doing that. I know I need to stop doing this. I know I need to change how to do this. But we have this weird thinking that sometimes we go like, well, I'll start doing that tomorrow, right? And we do that all the time. And right now, maybe it's not tomorrow. Maybe right now it feels like the fall. And we're all playing catch up a little bit with summer plans and what summer was last year. So you're like, I'm gonna do that this fall. But how easy is this fall for it to become this winter, next spring? And I think today is the day that God has provided you and me. And if we feel like there's some adjustments he's asking us to make in our life to recenter on him and to experience this kind of margin, today is the day to create space for those things, in my opinion.
A few people mentioned just praying at the end of each day, praying first thing in the morning, just connecting with God. Those are really good. People talking about sharing feelings with their friends, other people to process with. I think all of those are really good suggestions as to how we can do this in our personal habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, you've talked about all weekend, just even we're whole people, right? Mm-hmm. So praying is awesome. Studying the Bible is awesome. I think we also need to recognize what does the rest of your body need, right? Some of you, the best thing you could do is like go to sleep on time to like get enough rest. For some of you, it's thinking through holistically, what does your life look like and where are some gaps that you may be able to find greater personal health by embracing.
It's good.
Yeah. So the next one that we're going to talk about that we see show up for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego way more than just this passage is consistent integrity. And the question that we want to kind of ask you to think about around this idea is, do you have any tips that have helped you to develop integrity in your life, right? I think when we look at and think about what does it mean to be consistent, that's what integrity is, to be consistent everywhere in our life. Kendall, where do you feel like you've seen that show up in your life well? How do you do that?
I think for me, the biggest thing about kind of having a consistent integrity is that it really is a choice. And so making that choice day in, day out. And I think it's not something that you can just say, one day I'm gonna be a person of integrity, and then after that you don't ever kind of struggle with that. I think it's something every day we have to wake up and make a recommitment to that. And in every part of your life, not just like, I'm gonna be a person of integrity at church, I'm gonna be a person of integrity in my job, in my finances, and not so much with my friends. Oh, my family, they can kind of take, it has to be everywhere, or else it just doesn't make any sense. You can't tell like, well, am I a person of integrity here, but not over here? Now I'm no longer a person of integrity. So I think for me, it's that choice and it's that place in every bit of my life.
Yeah, and I think that there are just so many areas where we want to experience integrity, but we are not willing to look for what are those sustainable steps of change in your life that can bring real integrity as a follower of Jesus. And here's what I mean. I think one of the areas of brokenness this shows up in our culture is the way we think about and talk about dieting. We talk a lot about highly restrictive diets that will always lead to binging, right? Like it's not sustainable. You're not gonna eat 4 pieces of lettuce between 2 and 2:15 every afternoon for the rest of your life. You're not going to do it. And so here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna do that for a few days. You're gonna white knuckle, and then we even have a word for it. You'll have a cheat day, right? You go, today I get to eat whatever I want. And I think the bigger picture of what it means to pursue integrity with God is, what are the things that God is asking me to lean into in my life to be consistent in all these areas all the time? And maybe the growth will be slower than you want it to be, but the growth will actually endure. It will actually be stable, as opposed to maybe it's felt like at times your life is just constantly going up and down because that's what you're doing. You're modeling this same kind of hyper restrictive binge culture even in your own integrity. And I think we have to be careful of that.
I love a good cheat day. I mean, when it comes to food, not integrity. Yeah.
Got it.
For sure.
Yeah. Ever feel like you're talking about something and somebody like didn't hear you correctly? That's what it
could be.
Like there.
Hey, the last one of kind of these things that can be helpful for us. I think is what we're gonna call vulnerable friendships. And the question I wanna ask is, what does it look like to have some vulnerable friendships? Because I think, I've got this picture in my mind that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they've stood up through the fiery furnace thing. They've gone in, and Nebuchadnezzar has said, listen, when the music plays, bow down and worship. Like, you guys got this? And they're like, got it. They go back out, the music plays, and I'm just imagining that Shadrach does not have to look over and see if Meshach and Abednego are bowing down. He knows that they're standing because they have done life together. They've developed these personal habits together. They've developed their integrity and the consistency of that together. They're not the kind of guys that are gonna say, hey guys, just like, let's bow down. Let's not mean it. Like, God, we cool? Like, we just don't wanna go in the furnace. No, they have decided, they know from each other that this is going to be what they're going to do. And that has developed out of them being vulnerable with each other. What does it look like to have vulnerable friendships, Phil?
Yeah, well, I think for me, this is a little bit of a cautionary tale. And I saw it in my dad, and I think to a certain extent, it's kind of generational, where like my dad just didn't have friendships. Like, he had colleagues, he had acquaintances, but he just never really had meaningful friendships. And I remember early in my 20s, our relationship had already started to change. And he was introducing me to a coworker, and he said, this is Phil, he's my son. And he said, he's my best friend. And at the time, I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And also like sad, because like your best friend should have a closer relationship than my dad and I had. And I think we have to pursue relationships as guys that go beneath the area of interest we have, the hobby that we have, the sports team, the latest thing. We have to be able to be vulnerable. And one of the ways that's been described this weekend is we have to share information with one another that is so real in our lives that it could be used against us. And like, do you have anybody in your life that you do that with? And I think one of the lies that culture tells us is that vulnerability is weakness. And that's just not what vulnerability is. Vulnerability is actually true strength. As a matter of fact, I would say vulnerability is an invitation to be able to let somebody in your life reflect that back to you and for your relationship to grow deeper. And it doesn't mean you share everything with everybody. We're gonna talk about friendship next week, actually, and how important it is to cultivate healthy friendships in our life. And if you don't have them, that's a lonely, lonely place to be. How about for you?
I think for me, it's having that group of guys that you have to do the same kind of things together. You know, so often, like I have a group of guys that I ride bikes with, I have a group of guys that I like to go out for dinner with and have coffee with. Maybe for you it's sports, and you talk sports and you talk about all the things that are going on with your team or whatever. But really, it's then using those things, those things that you have in common, to then build into deeper discussions, to build into accountability. I think a couple weeks ago, Phil, you talked about what does accountability look like? And in Christian circles, we use that word a lot, like that we're gonna share lives together. We're gonna tell people where we're struggling, where we're having hard times, so that we can pray for each other, we can hold each other accountable. But a lot of times we only go 90% of the way. We don't share those things that could be used against us. And what does it look like to go 100% with a group of guys? It's totally against. Is that me?
Is this like a bit?
I don't know.
We doing a bit right now?
I think I'm good. It's totally against culture and everything else. But what could that look like? And that, I think, would be our challenge this week is, if that's not you, if you don't have those relationships, that you find those vulnerable relationships in places where you could develop them.
Absolutely. Laura Ann commented on the chat. This is a great answer. She said, being willing to ugly cry with one another, or like by yourself, I guess, in the basement, potentially.
Right, yep, allegedly.
Sharing the good and the bad, full transparency, knowing that's from the one person where there isn't judgment, but will also challenge me. I mean, this is the kind of relationship that, like, I'm telling you, you might not think you need it. You might think you're good, but there is a better you do not understand. And that's the better of following Jesus and following Jesus with people. And guys, there is a path here at Eastern Hills, if you've never engaged with it, called The Harbor. And there's a group of guys from this ministry that are in our lobby today. They're gonna talk to you about the retreat coming this fall, but they get together every single week and provide a context for healthy relationships and guys actually knowing one another deeply. We really, really hope that in our life as a community and in our lives individually, that we won't settle to live in isolation. Which kind of brings us to what we see, right, as the outcome of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We talked about all the different ways that God used their faithfulness in this passage. And what we see is that our public boldness invites others to personal faith. It let faith be safe for other people that saw it in them. And I think when people in your life see you be faithful, see you be bold in your faith, it invites your kids, it invites your family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers. It invites people in your life to see, you know what? I know someone who follows Jesus who isn't crazy. I know someone who follows Jesus who genuinely cares. And so for you, Kendall, what does it mean in your mind to have personal boldness today?
It's not about fear of a fiery furnace, right? That's a good thing. But what it is there are still some scary things. And like you just mentioned, all those things, whether it's our neighbors, whether it's our friends, whether it's a coworker, for me, this is something that I'm so passionate about. Every time I stand up here, every time I hope you hear this from us, that is where we can have an impact, where our public boldness, going across the street to the brand new person that moved in across the street from you, and meeting that person, inviting them into your life, have a barbecue, have a meal together, whether that's the person down the street who you've lived here for 10 years, they've lived here for 10 years. Man, it feels really awkward to go say, hey, I still don't know you, but I need to get to know you. Like you said, not a high bar,
right,
but still something that does take some getting out of our comfort zones, to take some boldness. That's where we see an opportunity to share for somebody else to have a personal faith that we have by the way that we've invited them into our lives, by the way that we've hopefully allowed them to see Jesus in us.
Yeah, and I think we so overestimate what that has to look like. If you love people well in your life, you will be shocked at how low the bar of a difference that can make in their life is. There's a video series called Authentic Manhood, and there are two principles in it that have always stood out to me that I think boldness as guys in our day really shows up as. One of them is to accept responsibility, and one of them is to reject passivity. And I think there's just a common trend for us as guys to go, you know what, I'm not gonna take responsibility. This is somebody else's fault. This is my wife's fault. This is my boss's fault. This is the guy that let me down at work. This is my friend's fault. And it just isolates us. And then in addition to that, we live passively. And so we're with our kids, but we're on our phones. We're at home, but really we're just watching SportsCenter loop another time. And what does it look like for you to say, you know what, I can't take responsibility for everything because it's not all on me, but everything that is on me, I'm gonna take all the responsibility for. To be that kind of man in your home and in your life, and to say, what does it look like for me to reject passivity? There is nothing in your life that is going to drift towards better. If you want your life to experience the better that Jesus makes available, it means to lead well, to not embrace passivity. I would just challenge you that if you're somebody that you're on the next marriage, in the next house, at the next job, driving the next car, and it's always the last thing's fault. It's always the last person's fault. It's never on you. And you find yourself not taking responsibility where you need to and constantly being passive. Let me give you a look into your future. Your life is going to continue to get worse. And the person you have to blame for it is you. And the opportunity for each of us as guys to say, God made me different. I'm going to love and lead well sacrificially in my life. Take responsibility where I can and not be passive. I'm telling you, there's a better future in front of you if you'll embrace it. So here's what I'd love to leave you with. I want you to think about this question this week, which is, what if today marked a recommitment to this kind of faith? Look, if we're honest, we've all had months over the course of the last year and a half that have probably felt great, and we did some new habits and patterns, and it felt like things were up and to the right. And then some months where maybe circumstances got out of control, or you faced something you didn't expect, and now you are really discouraged, really frustrated. And your faith in what it looked like for you to be a man that followed God and cared for people well, that deteriorated. And now the invitation from God is, what if today you could change and see this kind of faith we see modeled in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that Jesus was with them just like he's with you today? Think about that question, that Father's Day 2021 could be the day you think back to and remember the kinds of things that God did in your life because of it. Now, here's what I'd like to do. We're gonna do this kind of declaration that we've written to remind you guys, as guys and dads, who you are and whose you are. So here's what I'm gonna ask you to do. Would you just stand up with me? And if you're a guy, everybody can stand up, but if you're a guy and you are here with people that you know, that you love, with family members, just like put your arm around them, hold their hand. If you're near a stranger, don't do this to them because that would be weird. But if you know somebody next to you, do that with somebody next to you. And we're gonna have some words on the screen, guys. You can get these words at ehills.org/weekend. We made a lock screen for your phone if you wanna put it there. There's a weekend resources button where you can copy and paste the text. That maybe you're gonna use these words this week. You're gonna put them on your mirror. You're gonna recite them to remind yourself throughout the week. But would you read these with us? Today, I will follow Jesus. I will praise him and obey him because I exist to serve him and glorify him. I love my wife and I will lay down my life to serve her. I will bless my children and my grandchildren by investing in them. I choose to love people and believe the best about others. Today, I will respond patiently, not react harshly.
I'm a disciple of Jesus, and his strength is stronger than my sinful desires. I am growing closer to Jesus today, and I will bring my family with me. Everything I have is God's, and I will put him first in how I use it. I am empowered and focused today because I have God's Spirit flowing through me.
I can face today because Christ is with me. So today, even if I get knocked down, I'll get back up and keep going because Jesus is my Savior, and in him, I have all that I need to live the life I was made for. I hope for you, that's a really important reminder. Maybe for you, that's a brand new idea, but it can be true of you today. In just a second, we're gonna sing a song that you may have sung before, and like it's one of those songs that we sing and we don't always explain, but it's actually about Daniel 3. And it's about the idea that the God of the universe loves you and me so much that no matter what fire you're going through, God is with you. He hasn't abandoned you. He loves you, and he will continue to support you. Would you pray with me? God, I pray for every person that's here in the room with us, everybody that's watching online. I pray for guys and dads, people where today is an amazing day of celebration, people where today it is really disappointing, really difficult, really sad, that you would meet all of us wherever we are. And as we sing these words, God, remind us that there is never a place we can go that you aren't already there waiting for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
There's a grace when the heart is under fire. Another way when the walls are closing in. And when I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire. Standing next to me, there was another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fire. All my debt left for dead beneath the water. is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still is and will be through it all. So come what may in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. Oh, I know I will never be alone. Yes, I know.
As you step into this week, know that you can step with boldness because you have a God who is standing by your side and you have a community of people who are willing to stand with you. Make sure, though, that you come back next week, too. Next week, we're kicking off our summer series, and we're going to be looking at some characters like Buzz and Woody and Spider-Man and some other people who are going to teach us some amazing truths about God. So make sure you invite your friends, invite your neighbors, invite some people to join you as we have some amazing conversations and celebrate the summer at the movies. Don't forget to buy your shirt on the way out, and happy Father's Day. We'll see you soon.